Testing. Hello. Hey, Facebook. It's Andrew Rains with Apex Pro. Here tonight to unveil the new Apex Pro Gen 2 device. Super excited to share this with you. Please let me know in the comments what you're seeing on the stream. I'm not getting a ton of feedback on Facebook right now to see what the actual live stream looks like. So if you could measure the quality of the stream for me, let me know if audio is working and if everything looks like it's performing well. I've had some issues with the Facebook live stream the past couple of days, as you might have noticed. So hopefully we're not going to fall victim to that. Good deal. Looks like we got some folks joining us. So again, I'm Andrew with Apex Pro, and join in this evening to learn about the new Apex Pro Gen 2 hardware. Very excited to share this with you. Many of you already have these in your hands. You've already purchased them. Some of you have them on order, reserved, and they will be shipping out this summer. So we're very excited about that. It's kind of the logical growth from the Gen 1 unit, which in a lot of ways introduced some really cool concepts and ideas and new things to our industry. And Gen 2 is going to carry that torch and really expand on it. So you'll notice that we're not the type of company that's going to roll out a new product every single year and paint it a new color and say, hey, here's the new thing. What we're really about is Ben says it's okay. Michael says looking good. Matt, hey, it's working. Ryan Finch works. Thanks, guys. I tried to broadcast in the Apex Pro users group last night, and the live stream shut me down. So I'm not on a streak of good Facebook live stream information. But hop in the comments and let me know. I know several of you. Michael Cooper actually has Apex Pro Gen 2 units in stock, and that's a big deal because, as many of you probably know, the global supply chain situation with getting parts from overseas, getting parts from the US, any components in the electronic industry has been really hampered by COVID. And what's interesting is that electronic manufacturing supply chains were actually in a rough spot before COVID, meaning that they were only able to barely meet demand as is. So things like any consumer electronic product, computers, TVs, cars, anything that's using any sort of GPS functionality, that stuff was already in extreme demand and supply was having trouble with it. So couple that with a couple of months of no production in many manufacturing facilities around the world, and you end up with more demand than supply because once COVID kind of started settling down, consumer demand came back as strong as ever, which is awesome. Anthony, I need to purchase a unit, please. I can help you with that. 1 second, I'll actually post a link. If you want to reserve an Apex Pro, and I say reserve because you can buy them on our site, but there's a 10 to 12 week lead time estimate right now. We'll send you an email if that changes. And I'm sure there's a lot of other products right now and other things that you guys have seen on the internet that are ordered. Maybe even I ordered some micro USB cables from Amazon a few weeks ago and the order got canceled, never shipped. First time that's ever happened. So I know that there are some extenuating circumstances in the world right now, and I'm not here to complain about it, but just inform you of the reality. So you're welcome to reserve one. Anthony, if you want one for a track event right now, Mike Cooper's in this thread. Reach out to Mike, and he'll have Apex Pro Gen 2 inventory actually in his hands, and can help you out. Awesome. So I'll go into what Gen 2 is, some of the app changes and updates that y'all have probably already seen, hopefully have already seen as well, and kind of share with you some of the best practices and kind of the high level thought process with these app updates. And then there's a couple of things that you need to know if you're going to be updating your app that I want to make sure that you're aware of. So again, I'm Andrew with Apex Pro. Thanks for joining. Jump in the comments. Let us know how pumped you are about Gen 2. And I'm going to share this to the Apex Pro users group real quick and make sure we get everybody in the loop with what's going on in the Apex Pro world. So the first thing you'll notice with the Gen 2 hardware is that it looks different. It's a lot different. Dimensionally, it's different. It's a little smaller. It's now curved. And the base plate itself is actually different. So the first thing that you need to know when you're considering a purchase of a Gen 2 is that if you have a Gen 1 unit, your base plate is not compatible. It's a new base plate. And there's a lot of reasons for that. I won't go into a ton of detail, but the primary reason is that the case design is very different. Obviously, it's a different shape. It's smaller. And the height of the original pins and the location would have mean that they would be basically hammering the battery when you put them in on these. So we had to adapt. We either had to go to a shorter pin or an offset pin mount. So for the other design changes we decided to make with the new case necessitated a new base plate. So straight off the bat, there you go, Mike. You can help Anthony out. You'll notice the LEDs are white on these, the backing for the LEDs, so like the actual piece behind the LEDs. So as we know from the world, light colors absorb less heat than dark colors. So dark colors, Walt ordered his Gen 2, right on. Thank you, Walt. Good deal. Good to hear from you. Walt, I saw the email that you sent about video recording. I forwarded that to the development. So thanks for sending that error message. I appreciate it. So the white LEDs absorb less heat, which make them much more resilient to sitting on the dash in your car for a long period of time and absorbing heat. So there's just a reliability element. Internally, all the sensors are new in the device. So it's got a new GPS with a big GPS antenna. Previously, the device did not actually have an antenna, it had a chip. So the antenna, while the same hertz rate or frequency rate, 10 hertz of the original Apex Pro, it now has an antenna that increases accuracy or improves accuracy. So you actually get better positioning. Your true location is basically within a smaller kind of range. So you guys know how the satellite shifts around the world change and affect how the placement looks of the car on the satellite map. Gen 2 is going to be a little more consistent with where that placement is because the antenna is a little better. There is a USB-C charging port with an little LED light right next to that USB-C charging cable. And that is what tells you if your unit's charging or not. So one of the biggest frustrations with the Gen 1 unit was I don't know when it's charging or I don't know when it's fully charged. I ran into that problem myself all the time. So that was something that we wanted to solve. And it really necessitated a design change to make that possible. So that's something that is just a functionality improvement, drastically better. The button to turn it on is now on the front instead of the side. The startup sequence is a little quicker. The processor is a little better that's in the unit. Everything's better. The model, the coaching model, what we call the Apex Coach in the app, has been updated so that the red lights no longer populate endlessly when you're accelerating in a straight line. Towards the end of the straightaway, a lot of times you'll still see those red lights, but that's usually just telling you like on another lap, you got a better exit out of the previous corner. So what we wanted it to represent was the modeling of your car's power. So yeah, you're not accelerating as fast as the car has ever accelerated, but you're at wide open throttle, and the unit needs to kind of recognize that, or recognize that you're doing everything that you can. So the Apex model no longer shows as many red lights in a straight line, which means the Apex scores on Gen 2 will be higher. So that's really cool. So those are some of the kind of big picture hardware changes. I'm going to go turn the temperature down real quick because it's kind of warm in here. And while I'm doing these, I tend to get kind of hot. So stay tuned. I'll be right back. Commercial break. Turn the air down, Ross. You're making it cooler just for while I'm on Facebook Live.
No, yeah, I do. I was literally opening my door too. Can I make it cold?
Yeah, you can do that.
All right.
Ross said it was too warm too, so that works out. Hey guys, if you're just joining in, Andrew with Apex Pro here talking about Apex Pro Gen 2 and App 8.0 Plus. So there's lots of good stuff to talk about. Again, Gen 2 hardware, fancy new base plate design, offset pins, give it a little better retention onto the base plate, a little thinner base plate, same magnets. There's a lot of cool things there. Go ahead and ask your questions about Gen 2, guys, as you have them in the comments. We already covered some of the new things about the hardware on Gen 2. I'll talk a little bit. I'm actually going to drop. I'm not going to go into it because I've got a nice fancy PDF here that has some of the feature differences between Gen 1 and Gen 2, or I'll say the new features on Gen 2. So Gen 2 does everything Gen 1 does now and more. No bend, no CAN bus. Sorry, my man. How did I know you were going to say that? I could have predicted that. That's a big barrier. I'm not going to go down that road. We'll be there all the rest of the night. Check out the PDF that I just dropped on there. That PDF is going to show you some of the improvements and the differences between Gen 2 and Gen 1, focused on the new features of the Gen 2. Brian Finch says battery life's a lot longer. I can attest to that. The battery life is substantially better. It's a new battery indicator. We got rid of some of the common failure points that we saw on the Gen 1 batteries, just the benefit of having it out in the field for a couple of years. There's a whole lot of stuff that's better about the battery life on Gen 2. The way that it interacts with GPS satellites now when you're not recording data, so when you're on standby, when it's connected to your phone but not logging data, it is not working as hard to position itself, so it saves a lot of battery like that. So I've seen the battery life, we're saying 6 hours, that's bench test, what it'll do. I've seen better battery life than that at the track. I did an entire weekend without charging it back in March. So it's been pretty impressive. So yes, battery life is better. And to be honest, Jeff, I saw your question. The battery life on Gen 1 was not bad at all. I want to be extremely clear about that. Gen 1 has actually very good battery life. The problem was that there are some common issues with the battery itself. Either it can be damaged and dislodged, or when the unit is connected to your phone, even when it's not logging data, it sucks a pretty decent amount of battery. But if you turn the Apex Pro Gen 1 off between every session and you have a new battery in it, a relatively fresh battery, and it's not damaged in any way, it'll last a very long time. The Gen 2 is just more resilient to different use cases, and the battery life is going to be on average way better. I think you'll notice that right away. So there's a lot of reliability improvements. We've actually designed, and you guys might have heard this if you've listened to the 1010s podcast or the Slip Angle show, but as a company here at Def Dynamics, which is the building, the startup studio, the venture studio that Apex Pro operates out of, we've designed probably 20 different electronics products and different circuit boards since we released the first Apex Pro unit. So this second one more so is a product of all the learnings with all those other products. Some of them we've made for mass production, some of them have been prototypes, but many of them have used the sensors and this newer stuff that's now in the Gen 2 device. So we're coming at it from a totally different angle. If you guys comment, I lost the video on the Facebook page that I had pulled up, but let me know if anybody's having issues viewing the stream. It still says that it's live. Facebook hadn't been doing me any favors recently. I'm going to share my phone screen, and or before I do that, I'm actually going to share a couple of just like screenshots that I want to show you guys of the new app. So not only does the hardware get updated, but in order to take advantage of all these new changes with the hardware and the new Gen 2 product, we've updated the app to house a lot of these new features and also to improve a lot of the areas that we wanted to improve, a lot of the areas that you've asked us to make changes to, or conceptually increase what crew views capabilities are. Increase the ability for people to interact with each other and share data with one another. And so again, I'll emphasize this as I always do, but this is the start of heading in these directions. This is not the end all be all. This is what the product is. Remember, when you buy an Apex Pro and you download the app, what you get is not just what you see today. It's the update that you get in 2 months that changes some features, that makes everything, yeah. Ben, I do like that idea a lot. I just don't have the resources to explore the idea. we'll come back to that later. But I do want to see the new Hong North cars at some point soon. I want to see, well, particularly Kevin's car, because I've heard it's an awesome build. Sorry, derailment. We'll go into this screenshot that I have pulled up right here. So when you upload the new app or download the new app, and you are, this is app 8.0 plus, I'll call it. So it is going to be 8.03 or newer. The screen that you should be able to see now is where you'll tap create new user from the home screen, and then this screen will appear and this pop-up will show up and it'll say you need a new account. You have not created an account before. You might have a username in the Apex Pro app now, but you never created a password and added an email address and all of this stuff. This is a new process. So it can be kind of confusing. There's very specific wording in here. You need a new account. There's a reason it says that, and that's because everybody that opens up the new app will need to create a new account. What this will allow you to do is create a CrewView public profile. And now basically this will tie our backend together so that when you submit data, we can do a lot more with it. So ultimately we'll be giving awards for fast lap times in different categories. We'll be giving awards for most laps run, like physical awards. Like it might be, I don't know, something free from one of our partners or something that you could use when you go to the track, or some oil or some racing gear. By the way, check out this Schubert SP1 carbon. Look how sweet that thing is. So there's a whole lot of reasons to do this, but you're going to want to log in and create a new user account. So you're going to tap register now. Everybody that's watching, register now on the new app. I wanted to go ahead and share that. Now you'll notice on the screen right here below Apex Pro, you'll see this user's username. Now what this needs to do, or what needs to happen here, is if you have an old username and it's going to auto-populate right there where it says username, leave that the same if you want to submit your old data. This new CrewView system, we're not pulling any of the data that you guys have submitted automatically into this new CrewView system. You need to resubmit it. And unfortunately, that's just how big of a leap this is. It's a totally new backend, totally new database. Create your profile, submit your data. That's going to be required to compete on the top 10. So you can see this user's username was auto-populated. All he had to do was enter a password and an email address, and he's good to go. And that's exactly what you should do. Enter your password, just make one up, use one that you use for other things, enter an email address that you have access to, and then it'll send you a verification email. It'll verify your account, and then you're all set. Then you can go to CrewView. Alessandro had a question. The old records only count if you submit them to CrewView, the new CrewView. So you do have to keep your old username. I tried to get this information out there as soon as we were public about the app update. So I'll keep a record of those of you who, if you accidentally changed your username, if you know your old username and you know your new username, I can keep a record of it. And in a couple of weeks, once the app development slows down from this big change, I can go in and change your username back so you can update that. But I'm not going to be able to do that anytime soon. But keep your old username. There's a reason that we made it auto-populate. So if you have a username in the Apex Pro app, it's going to auto-populate. If you don't have a username, you probably weren't able to submit data to CrewView anyway. Let's see, we'll stop the screen share here. What do we need to know? What else do we need to know? That registration process is very simple. I'll drop a YouTube link. I know how to get in touch with you, Alessandro. That's okay. I'll be able to fix that for you, but just give me a little bit of time on it. I'm not going to be able to do it right away. It's just the difference between I can deal with bugs that come up that affect everybody that uses the app, or I can fix one username issue. I just got to pick one, right? I got to do the stuff that affects everybody first. But I will be able to help you out long term on that. So I'm going to post a video real quick that shows the registration process. It's really straightforward, and we've already had hundreds and hundreds of people join and create new accounts. So it looks like it's going really well. I've probably only heard from about 5 people on it. So those are good numbers. John, does it automatically submit records when you create your new account? No, you have to submit the laps from your CrewView profile, either by tapping submit laps or by submitting data. So it does not auto submit data. There's still an element of, we want you to choose to share your data to make that information public. Not that there's anything that you need to hide or don't want anyone to see, but it's still just you get to make that decision. I'm going to show you guys the new app right after I show you one of the new features that's very exciting, because I think it's kind of a simplified way of doing something that is extremely, a lot of people have asked for, and an extremely popular feature, and that is streaming data, so telemetry. As many of you are aware, CrewView currently streams position and speed, as well as lap time. We've added to CrewView, with help of the Gen 2 and better hardware and all of that, we've added streaming of data. So streaming of like a data graph, your speed trace, like you would see, kind of a simplified version of the telemetry you would see coming off a Formula One car or whatever. It's not going to be quite that comprehensive, but this is, again, scratching the surface of what can be done with this feature. One second, let me show you guys this as soon as I get it set up. I use Zoom like 3 times a day, and it's still difficult to use. There we go. All right. So the screen that you can see now is the new telemetry graph. So the way this works, it's just on the standard CrewView live feed, or the CrewView users map that you'll see at the bottom right of the CrewView profile area. This is a view you're pretty familiar with. You see the lap list over here on the right. And then here's the data. So the way you access this, you have to either be an annual LTP member, or you have to have the new telemetry monthly feature, the LTP upgrade option. So what we did with Laptimer Plus was, before it was $10 a month or $100 a year, right? So $100 a year is a slight discount to the $10 monthly rate. Now what we've done is we've added a $5 a month level for just predictive timing. So for those of you who maybe don't want video, telemetry, or all the goodies that come with the full package, the membership benefits, I'll call them, discounts on our webinars, discounts on other products, early information. LTP members got an email about Gen 2 like almost a month ago, in early May. So they get some of the benefits of knowing about what we've got going on, new features and that sort of thing. This level is a $14.99 a month. So $15 a month gets you the current crop of LTP features plus telemetry. But the caveat is the LTP annual subscription is still $99. So now for your annual membership, you now also get telemetry streaming for no additional cost whatsoever, which I think is really cool. So what you see here is a live speed trace. The driver is currently creating this red speed trace, and it overlays it on his previous laps. So this part of the speed trace right here is the back straightaway at Road Atlanta. That's this area over here. And I know for a fact that this speed trace should look like this, right? Well, it really should look like this. So when I saw the driver, I had the radio on, I saw the driver accelerating, and then start lifting out of the power. I knew right away that they were struggling with, didn't quite have the visuals right. There was some anticipation approaching that braking zone. So we talked about it after the session. I already knew what we needed to talk about. That was so obvious by looking at the data. And then what we did next time was we developed a trigger. So I said, we're going to drive all the way to the 3 board. We're going to accelerate to the 3 board, which is actually fairly early at Road Atlanta. We're going to accelerate to the 3 board and then threshold brake. And so every time on that next session, I saw the speed trace take a dip, right? I could actually actively see it happening. The sampling rate's quick enough. I would say accelerate to the 3, accelerate to the 3. And by the end of that session, we had a nice, boom, sawtooth. So we were actively coaching using this telemetry. So that's just one example of what you can do with this. If you have students, like you're an instructor and your students are going out on track, if you know the basics of the speed trace, you can pick up on all sorts of stuff, all sorts of talking points. So maybe you have 1 or 2 or 3 students. Maybe you go to Grid Life where you're trackside coaching. You're not even in the car with them. You really need something like this because this gives you so much information about, just where do I need to start? What corner do we need to talk about? Particularly if you go to a track a lot, you kind of have a rough idea of the minimum corner speeds. So I know at Road Atlanta, this car in particular could be doing about a 90 mile an hour minimum corner speed there. So I knew right away that turn 1 was really not getting everything out of the car. So we could talk about that. Hey, what's the confidence level like? What are your visuals there? Right? We already had a talking point. I didn't have to think or do anything. I already had this extra information. So that's from a coaching perspective. Now, if you're racing and you have an Apex Pro in the car, you're a pit crew, this is going to be helpful for a lot of reasons. Crew view is already helpful to know if the car gets stranded where it's stuck on the side of the track. But this is also helpful to know if the driver has a problem or has some sort of a mechanical, right? Because you can follow, they're accelerating, and now he's not. Now he's back up on the throttle, right? So I actually had a couple of times with this driver where we had an issue with the car and I would see this exact thing happening. I'd see him going down the straightaway, get off the throttle, and then get back up on the gas. And so I would prompt on the radio and say, everything okay? Right? And they just got us one step ahead of the game. It was really, really cool. So I don't have to talk for any longer about how awesome that is, but I think you guys are going to love the telemetry features. You do need the Gen 2 hardware in order to stream telemetry. The Gen 1 hardware just does not have the capacity to do this effectively. That was part of one of the features that we kind of embedded into the new device. So make sure you check that out. I'm going to share my phone screen over now and show you guys the new app UI. The user interface is totally different. It's all new. And jump in the comments and let me know if the live stream, I haven't seen anybody comment in a little while. Hopefully I'm not just talking to myself. Before I do that, I'm going to share with you guys the Gen 2 upgrade form for Laptimer Plus subscribers. So if you are a Laptimer Plus annual subscriber and you want to upgrade to a Gen 2 and you're okay with getting rid of your Gen 1, we're going to offer you a discount to send your Gen 1 back. And so basically you'll fill out this form. I'm going to post it in the comments, fill it out, and we'll reach out to you with a discount code. When you buy with that code, we know to send you a return shipping label for your Gen 1 unit, and then you'll send it back to us. All right, when you get your Gen 2. So you can keep your Gen 1 obviously until the Gen 2 ships, then you'll send it back, and that's what you get your discount for. That's $125 off the Gen 2 device, and that is for Laptimer Plus annual subscribers. We are going to wrap up that program at that pricing level at the end of May. So starting June 1st, that's going to be $99 off. So if you want to take advantage of that deep discount now, $125 off, go ahead and fill out that form, and our team will reach out to you with the information that you need. Awesome. Tons of people have already taken advantage. That's how we sold out of the first 2 production runs of Gen 2s already, were our Laptimer Plus subscribers that jumped on that. So good on you guys for doing it quickly. You reserved your unit. So let's take a look at the app. So I mentioned earlier that we made some changes in the app to enable these new Gen 2 features. We made a bunch of wholesale changes in the app, and not in a way that there's some changes in functionality, but you're going to see a new look on the home screen like we're looking at right now, but everything is going to be there just like it was before. Now you just have to click further to get to that information. And the reason that we did that is because 9 icons on the home screen like we had before was too many. It was hard to make a decision. I watched people for several years struggle to decide which icon to press. And also in the sun, it's much easier to see this white on blue background with big icons and big letters. Makes it easier to navigate at the racetrack. So hopefully you find this nice and comfortable. There's a couple things that it's all fairly intuitive. If you want to drive and connect to your Apex Pro, tap Drive. If you want to review your data, tap Data. If you want to look at CrewView records or the live feed or anything that has to do with CrewView and social and community, CrewView. If you want to buy Lap Timer Plus features, LTP. If you want to change something to do with your username or user settings, tap there at the top where you see Andrew's Apex Pro. Real quick, for those of you that are LTP members, when you tap this page and you first download the app, you'll need to click Restore in the top right. That will restore your Lap Timer Plus subscription. That will give you access to the original whatever content, whatever level you had selected before. But now you can see the telemetry level, video levels at $9.99, and predictive. So each level builds on one another. Predictive, video, telemetry, and then the LTP membership is our 1 year $99, all features included, plus additional benefits package. Awesome. When you tap the drive screen, the next page is going to look like this. This looks more familiar to the original home screen. Going from top to bottom, you've got track selection, which is red, meaning you need to make sure that something is selected. You've got the connect icon, connect the same way you did before. Display options, that's all the stuff that you saw previously that allow you to change settings on the unit's LEDs. Now when you tap the 3-button option down here in the bottom right, you have 2 features. You can toggle between Apex Coach, and you can also shut the learning off, meaning you can shut off the brain, you can shut off the algorithm to keep learning, and you can freeze it with whatever information it has now. So let me connect to an Apex Pro and I'll show you guys that real quick. Also, you can start a free Lap Timer Plus trial. So if you don't have LTP and you buy a Gen 2, you get a free month of all the Lap Timer Plus features. So just tap Start Free Trial to do that. Right here, I can toggle from Apex Coach to Predictive. So I'm going to tap back to Apex Coach. When I tap to Predictive, you'll see 2 lights appear in the middle. You see how it went green lights and red lights? Predictive is now going to display on the Apex Pro unit itself. That's a really cool feature. There'll be a lot more information about how to use that coming out soon. The brain icon will shut off the learning process. So basically the algorithm stops learning about the potential of your driving, and it just freezes and leaves whatever you embedded in the unit in the last session. Track selection, much the same. You'll still have auto track selection. Open Lap Timer looks a little different, but this is the first thing that you'll see that's different, the setup sheet. What you're going to do here is pick the brand of tire that you're running, and whether it's a street tire, a track day tire, R-Comp, or a racing slick. So if you're on Hankook RS4s, then your Hankook street tires. In all likelihood, this will eventually become probably a tire database. But the reason that it lives right here in this particular location is so that you verify what tires you're on when you go out. And the reason you want to do this is because now CrewView will be segmented into these 3 tire categories. So if you're on slicks, you're not going to be competing with somebody on street tires. All right, you can expect more categorization in CrewView, right? If you have a GT3 RS on slicks, you're going to be really fast. If you have a Miata on street tires, you're not. We want you to compete with people that are in similar equipment. So there's some equity there. There's some fairness. Down here, the blue little arrows, you'll see those. You can use those to configure the screens to display whatever you want. There's all sorts of options here. I won't spend a ton of time on it, but this is the page you're used to if you have Lap Timer Plus. This is how you toggle to select Predictive and Predictive Delta as you tap the little clock icon. Very cool. Let's go to CrewView. CrewView is now going to display as your public profile. And what you'll see here is your user avatar in the top left with your username, your garage, which is the vehicles that you own or drive regularly, personal track records. So this is data that you've submitted and records that you've been awarded. That's going to show you the best times or best Apex scores you've submitted. community milestones. These are for the data that you've submitted. It's how many laps you've submitted, how many people are following you, and how many tracks you've submitted data for. So check that out. We'll probably be giving awards for most followers, most number of laps, stuff like that at the end of the year. So that's going to be super fun. To add a car, just tap add a car and then pick the manufacturer, drivetrain, color, all that kind of stuff. So that's going to now be associated with your profile. So other users, when they see you set a flaming hot lap time, they can go see what kind of car you're driving and get some context for the information. Personal track records, if you swipe over to submit laps, instead of you submitting laps manually on each individual section, that's going to submit all your laps at once. It does take a little while, but just tap submit laps and let it run. That's where you need to have your old username. Ryan Finch said, "Are you Scott Robertson?" I was wondering if Scott was on here. Scott's got an Apex Pro Gen 2 coming his way. Awesome. You can see on here, Ryan, I've got my 2013 Chevrolet Camaro. That was Matt McCarty's car. So you can add as many cars as you want. So a good example, I was at MSR Crescent on Sunday. I drove Matt's Camaro. I wanted to make sure that that was affiliated with my data. So I just added a 2013 Camaro. And it's actually got a Corvette emblem. So I'll need to fix that at some point. I can't wait to hear Fast Miata on street tires. I see. I understand the comment now. So I can't wait to hear from all of you about which cars you don't have in there. I already heard from Eduardo, who's in the UK, that we don't have a Renault logo for him on Renault or his year, make, model. So I can't wait to do all of the car research to make sure that we have a comprehensive database. I can see that being a lot of my time in the future. But I think you guys will have a lot of fun with this. Make sure to add your avatar because that will post on the CrewView community. And that's what allows other users to find you. So when you tap community right here, you'll see users posting, like see right here, USM Cram, Awesome Cram just posted and said, "Hi CrewView," because he tapped the avatar. So I can tap right here and I can see his public profile. He's got a 2019 Cayman. I can tap follow. It's Chris Ramirez. I know him. Hey, Chris, I'm following you now. I can see all the other times he posted. There's Ashish. Ashish posted some times. Casey Henry posted a whole bunch of times. I saw that from Sebring. Now, what you need to know about searching for users is that right now, this database, the way that it works, it requires you need to like scroll through it, scroll all the way just, for 20 or 30 seconds almost. There's so many people that have been posting their data, and then go to search and then search for your friends. So if I wanted to find Ken Schlorf, I wouldn't have been able to find him until USMC, United States Marine Corps. Makes sense. Nice lap at Brainerd, Ken. You can also segment this information by all events, your friends. So if I tap friends, then just the people that I'm friends with, only their data is going to appear. And then home tracks. So my home tracks are Barber, Road, Atlanta, Sebring, NOLA, NCM, Laguna Seca, I think. And so then I'm only, there we go, Laguna Seca, maybe Brainerd as well. I think I added Brainerd. But home tracks, you tap this little globe in the top right and you can pick your home tracks. And I thought this was a really cool addition because what this lets you do is pick the tracks that you care about. And then you see the data that's associated. You see the times that people are submitting to those tracks. So say you're planning a track day, you live in Atlanta and you're going to Laguna and you're renting a car and you're going to go do it. You can start following lap times at Laguna to see, hey, who's fast out there, right? What kind of lap times are good? When you tap, so like if I tap on Casey's data session right here in the middle, it's going to take me to a little abbreviated version of the data review here, right? I can actually slide the data through and I can see his cornering speeds. I can see what his apex lights look like. I can see the lap time and the apex score here. If he had vehicle information affiliated with it, I would see that there. When I go back and I tap on Casey's name, I can see his public profile. And I think Casey's in Hawaii right now. I saw him post earlier. So hopefully you get to check this out, Casey. Tap the 3 dots to follow. So we use those 3 dots because that's the same on Instagram. You tap those to follow people. So tap the 3 dots to follow or unfollow somebody. But make sure to check out that home tracks feature because I think that's going to be a lot of fun I'm certainly fired up about it. The live stream map is the same as it was before, where you're going to get the global view of CrewView users. The numbers represent the number of tracks in that area. Tap the search bar to search for people that are live on track, and then follow them by tapping focus when it pulls up on that page. All right, guys, that is the majority, I think, of the information that I have to share on Apex Pro Gen 2. I think you're all on our email address, our email blast. You'll probably see an email in the morning that has more information on Gen 2. In the coming weeks, we're going to be adding a bunch of videos about it. We're going to be launching an online training course for the app to answer all of your questions on everything that you see in the app, whether it's CrewView, connecting to your Apex Pro, selecting a track, and we'll keep making some positive changes in the right direction. So this is a pretty big change. Again, a lot of it is stuff that you can't see. A lot of it is back-end work, stuff that we needed to make changes to in order to give us the opportunity to grow. And thank you very much for all of your support. I'm pretty overwhelmed by the number of you who've bought Gen 2s, even though they're not on the shelf shipping. So we've actually shipped every Gen 2 that we've built so far. We've been pre-selling them to our dealers over the past month and a half or so, and they all shipped out this week. And then a bunch of you guys have bought units that are in this next big production run that's going to be coming and probably shipping out in June. So if you buy a Gen 2 from us now, I posted the information. You can go order one off of our website, or you can submit your information. You can look at that form to submit for a discount code for annual Lap Number Plus members. Those units are probably going to ship out in mid-June. If you want one today, you can reach out to Mike Cooper. Eric Meyer has some units. HMS Motorsport has units. Ravi Tomerlin at We Don't Lift has units. Michael Need at Dream Street Garage has units. We got a handful of dealers that have inventory in their hands. Our dealer in the UK, Eduardo de Souza, Apex Pro UK, has units over there. So definitely make sure you guys check those areas out if you need to pick up a unit now. Thanks for all the great questions. I really appreciate it. I'm going to, tomorrow's my wife's birthday, so I'm going to head home and spend some time with her. You guys probably know that if you follow me on Facebook and Instagram. Been trying to make a big deal out of it. But once again, thank you for all your support. I'm very excited to hear your thoughts and comments on all these new features and changes in the app. And again, this is it's a big fundamental change, but it's laying a lot of groundwork for what we can do with Apex Pro in the future. And you're a part of that. So thanks for being a part of the team. If you need a new helmet, check this thing out. Look at that. This will make Joe happy. It's an incredible piece of artwork. I've been very happy with this guy. 2020, SA 2020 Schubert SB1 Carbon from HMS Motorsport, available from dealers all over the country. My preferred lid of choice, Max Verstappen was wearing one this past weekend when he won the Monaco Grand Prix. Michael Schumacher wore one his whole career. Don't know what else you need to know if you're looking for the highest quality helmet on the market. That is it. All right, guys. Have a good evening. Thanks for joining in as usual, and we'll see you next time.